The BBC has learned that one of the two Sea King helicopters Britain has given to Ukraine played a key role in the Falklands conflict. Let's get more now from our diplomatic correspondent, James Landale. What more do we know then, James?
Well, I've just come back from Ukraine, and while I was there, I had the opportunity to fly on one of the two Sea King helicopters that the UK has given to Ukraine. And it was while I was up in the air that it just struck me just how long these aircraft have been in service. And so I did a bit of digging around to try and discover, what had happened to this aircraft over the years, and discovered that one of them had this rather extraordinary back history.
For years, this helicopter served the British Navy, but now it's flying new colours. One of two Sea Kings the UK has given Ukraine. An iconic British aircraft, here to fetch and carry, to rescue and reconnoitre. We joined the crew on patrol in the skies of southern Ukraine.
This aircraft is not new. It can't fire any missiles, but it can play a key role moving troops and kit to where they need to be on the battlefield. It does it with some style.
It's also being used to evacuate casualties and rescue pilots who've ejected behind enemy lines, a matter close to the crew's heart.
I like this helicopter because it's incredibly good for flying. It's one of the best for combat operations, whether transporting equipment or carrying out search and rescue. It's easy to fly even in difficult conditions.
These pictures are from the second helicopter Britain's given, and its pilots were not even born when it first saw combat in another conflict that began with an illegal invasion. For this aircraft is more than 40 years old and looked like this in the Falklands in 1982. Just one of many Sea Kings used by British forces to retake the islands in the South Atlantic from invading Argentine troops.
It's a wonderful aircraft, a hugely flexible aircraft, great capability. You can do almost anything with it.
The man who flew this helicopter in the Falklands said it played an historic role, taking the British general to Port Stanley to accept the Argentine surrender.
Quite an interesting operation, right apart from the weather. The ceasefire hadn't been signed up to this stage, and so the aircraft was flying into Stanley, competing not with just the weather, but also some still rather unfriendly Argentines around.
His old Sea King here was even flown in the Falklands by Prince Andrew, then serving as a young naval pilot.
They're doing the flight servicing.
In a hangar in southern England, a third Sea King is being prepared for war, and Ukrainian naval engineers are being trained to keep it flying.
Is this aircraft too old for combat?
They are old, but they've gone through modernisation, and we need them very much. I believe this is just the start of our work together.
And he may be right. There are other Sea Kings in Britain that could join this one if the government wants to send them. They'd certainly be welcome. James Landale, BBC News in southern Ukraine.
These aircraft, are not going to change the balance of the war in Ukraine. We're only talking about a couple. As I said, there's a third likely to be on the way shortly. And they're certainly not the fixed-wing warplanes that Ukraine has asked of Britain and other Western allies. But what struck me and the rest of our team when we were there was just whenever we spoke to Ukrainian pilots, engineers and crew, they were incredibly passionate about these aircraft and would certainly welcome more if they could get their hands on them.
OK, James, many thanks indeed. James Landale there, our diplomatic correspondent.